What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is time for the Week 21 Premier League predictions. I'm trying a new format for this video, probably faster paced, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments if you prefer this format or the old format, and watch it to see how it changes from the last video. So up on screen are the winning accumulators since the last episode. I did put on the FA Cup mega odds fourfold because, as you can see, it was odds of 25 to 1, and it would have come in if West Brom didn't concede a consolation 95th minute goal against Aldershot. I just thought it was so close. Liverpool to beat Arsenal, of course. Arsenal fan, saw that coming. And City and Huddersfield, City to win 5-0, saw that coming. Flashing up on the screen are all of the members of the Patreon that's supporting the channel currently. If you want to join that, get exclusive members, accumulators, tips, and have direct messaging access to me, then you can click the join link using the description down below. And here are the new members of the YouTube memberships here on YouTube since the last episode. So thank you very much to all of you. So as I said, different format, going to be staying big screen for the whole thing. So kicking up for the first fixture, we have Burnley up against Luton at Turf Moor. I think this is going to be a really interesting fixture between the two teams because on paper, Burnley should win. They are the better team, I guess you could say. They absolutely smashed it in the Championship last year, and Luton obviously wonderfully made it through the playoffs. However, Luton have sort of been a little bit more impressive this season as far as I'm concerned, so I don't really know which way this is going to go. I think at Kenilworth Road, I'd probably tip a 2-1 Luton win. At Turf Moor, Burnley should really get the win, but I'm not certain. I think Burnley could win, but I'm going to sit on the fence and go for a 1-1 draw, and my tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.9. Burnley really should win. They really, really should. I was so close to 2-1, so I'm not going to go for the result, as I've said, but my tip is going to be both teams to score. Next up after that, it is Chelsea up against Fulham. And before I go any further, I am predicting all 10 fixtures of this game week. 5 of them are being played this weekend. 5 of them are being played next weekend due to cup fixtures, fixture congestion, all that sort of thing. It's like a double game week, but half each week. It's a little bit weird, but 5 this weekend, 5 the next weekend, and next week for the video, instead of Premier League predictions, I'll be doing an updated final table predictions for the Premier League for you guys to enjoy. But anyway, going back to Chelsea up against Fulham, I think Chelsea are going to win this one at home. Chelsea just came off a loss against Middlesbrough in the League Cup 1-0 away from home, and Fulham just came off a loss once again, going in front at Anfield and losing 2-1 in the end to Liverpool. So that's twice they've gone to Anfield, been winning, and then end up losing the game. I think Chelsea are going to win this by the same scoreline that Liverpool beat Fulham in the Cup. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, and my tip is Chelsea to win at 1.61 because I'm not as confident in both teams to score as I am in a Chelsea win. Sounds weird because Chelsea are a little bit all over the place and Fulham have had some decent results, but I do think that they are going to win Chelsea at home because Fulham are much better at Craven Cottage than they are away from home, as we saw when they beat Arsenal, even though that was just such an infuriating game to watch as an Arsenal fan. After this, it's Newcastle up against Manchester City. Is this the return of Kevin De Bruyne? Maybe. I think maybe at the very least from the bench. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, I think Man City do beat Newcastle. Newcastle, it's been an interesting season. If you're a Newcastle fan, let me know down in the comments, what do you think in terms of this season? Like, how do you see it going? Because, I mean, if you watch that Liverpool-Newcastle game, Liverpool could have been 3-0 up in the first 5 minutes. In the end, they won 4-2 and accumulated the highest XG we have ever seen in a game of football. But we did get the tip right. We said Liverpool to win and both teams to score against Newcastle. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Manchester City, and my tip is Man City to win and both teams to score. I think it's pretty likely. I think Newcastle will score, but Man City, I think they're going to win. I think they'll get the better of Newcastle. After this, it's Everton up against Aston Villa. Two teams at opposite ends of the table. Everton, they had a really good bounce after the loss to Manchester United, put a great run of results together, and now they seem to be struggling again. They didn't register a single shot on target against Wolves. They lost 3-0, and that was a bit of a shock. I think it's not a shock to suggest that Wolves can beat Everton at home, but for Everton to provide absolutely nothing going forward was a little bit of a shock, at least as far as I was concerned. So I was tempted actually to go for a against the run of the league play, so to speak, Everton home win, and then I thought I could go for an Aston Villa away win, but Villa aren't quite as good away, certainly compared to how they play at home, and I think they were quite fortunate to beat Burnley in the last game week. We actually tipped Aston Villa and both teams to score against Burnley, so that came in as well. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think I was also tempted to go for a both teams to score tip, but after seeing Everton fail to create anything against Wolves, I shied away from that, and I've just gone 1-1 draw, Aston Villa double chance at 1.4. I think that's fair enough. I'd just stay away from that game. There's too many uncertainties as far as I'm concerned. So now the final game of this first half of the game week before we kick off the second half is Man United up against Tottenham. Tottenham, the deal is done. Timo Werner on loan for at least the rest of the season with an option to buy at the end. And I think that's going to be a decent signing for them. Tottenham, by far, it seems to be the most active team in the transfer window as of the first couple of weeks of it. And I think this is going to be a really interesting game. Manchester United, Tottenham. I think Tottenham, they're having a better season. I think they're playing better, and when they're at full strength and they have Maddison, Van de Ven and everything like that, I think they're playing better than Man United. But you look at Man United's squad, they got some players that you think just it should be going better for them, but it's just not. But at Old Trafford, I'm struggling to separate the two, so I'm going to go for a high scoring, entertaining 2-2 draw, and my tip is both teams are scoring over 2.5 goals, and the odds are only 1.66. It's low for a reason. I think we are going to see goals. I think if Tottenham are at full strength, I could see a cheeky little away win, but I wasn't brave enough, I'm afraid, to do that. But moving on to next week, we have Arsenal up against Crystal Palace. Arsenal at the Emirates. Arsenal really faltering in the league now. All of a sudden, top at Christmas, almost out of the Champions League spots by New Year's Day. Just mental, absolutely mental. Somehow 1 point ahead of Tottenham only. I mean, they're still doing decent, but we can kiss any hopes of winning the title this year goodbye. Let's focus on the Champions League, please. But for this fixture, I think Arsenal are going to win. But Crystal Palace, they will pose some problems. They beat Brentford in their 3-1 win. I tipped both teams to score there. Fulham Arsenal, I predicted there'd be 3 goals in that game, but I thought it would go the way of Arsenal, and unfortunately it was 2-1 the other way. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Arsenal here. It's at home, and I think they are going to win. I'm going to go for Arsenal to win and both teams to score at 3.4, because the odds of an Arsenal win is 1.3, and in their current run of form, that is way too low. Way too low for an Arsenal win. I know Arsenal at home pretty much always win against teams that are considerably lower than them in the league. I get that, but I do think Palace, with the likes of Eze and Elise playing the way they are, can definitely breach this Arsenal defence and even cause a bit of a concern. Maybe even Arsenal to win from behind. That's probably odds of like 5-1, because that you have to have Arsenal to win and both teams to score for that to come true. But Palace also need to score either first or then score 2 goals. You know what I mean. So I think Arsenal to win from behind could be a sneaky little outside shout there. After that, it is Brentford up against Nottingham Forest. This could be the return of Ivan Toney. Nottingham Forest, probably one of the teams most heavily affected by AFCON, I think. They've got some really good players missing out as a result of that. Brentford at home, I think they're going to win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Brentford, and my tip is going to be Brentford to win at evens. I mean, it could be a draw. Brentford were disappointing against Crystal Palace, but I do think they can get something from this game, so I'm going to back the Bees to get the win. After this, Sheffield United up against West Ham. Sheffield United losing 2-0 to Manchester City last week. It is what it is. And West Ham 0-0 against Brighton, but they were kind of outplayed a little bit. You know, Brighton, if any team was going to go and win that game, I think it would have been Brighton, but this is going to be quite a close game, but I see the odds and I like them. So I'm going to go for a win to West Ham. My tip is West Ham to win at 2.1, and I'm going to translate those odds into the scoreline and say 2-1 to West Ham. I'll give Sheffield United a goal, which is about as good as they can get lately, really, honestly. They're struggling. They are struggling, Sheffield United. I'm going to go for a West Ham win. 2-1. West Ham to win at 2.1. After that, the Vitality Stadium, we have Bournemouth up against Liverpool. Obviously, the odds for Liverpool to win are probably higher than they'd usually be. Probably the highest they'd ever be for Liverpool against Bournemouth for multiple reasons. One, Bournemouth being on a decent run of form. Obviously, losing to Tottenham. But we did predict Tottenham winning both teams to score against Bournemouth. But also, Liverpool missing Mo Salah to AFCON. And I still think Liverpool are going to win quite convincingly. I'm going to go 3-1 to Liverpool. My tip is Liverpool to win at 1.72. You could go Liverpool and both teams to score as well. I think Liverpool to win against Bournemouth at 1.72 is an absolute steal, because they are going to win. They just are. Final game of this game week is Brighton up against Wolves. I'm going to go for the home side in Brighton. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. My tip is over 2.5 goals at 1.61. And can you tell I was scarred by that Wolves-Everton game? Because I said both teams would score in the Wolves-Everton game, and it was 3-0. So bearing that in mind, I've gone over 2.5 goals without both teams to score to allow for a 3-0 either way, because I was recently burned by that. I think both teams in over 2.5 goals, probably be odds about 1.8, 1.9, is as good as happening as well, because Brighton games have a lot of goals. Despite the 0-0 draw with West Ham, I still believe that, and if you've backed that each week, you would be in the money. I think Brighton are going to get the win at home. Wolves look very good though, and they're good for a goal, so I'd back goals in this game. But that is going to do it for the Week 21 Premier League predictions. Like I said, let me know your thoughts on this format. Just a bigger face, really, and some graphics as opposed to me over on Super Brew. So leave your comments with your predictions down below, as well as your thoughts on the format. Drop a like. Feel free to check out the Patreon or join as a YouTube member, as I've said. And I will see you in the next video very soon.